Alvin Kamara, after practice on Thursday, we're filming this on a Friday. After practice on Thursday, he gave an interview and wanted to watch it and react to it because this whole season and last couple of years, I'm a huge Alvin Kamara fan. Love the guy. I think he's great. I love the way he plays, I love his style, all that stuff. And this year, he's taken a lot of flack, right? This year, he's had a down year production-wise. I think he's only scored a touchdown in one game. And we keep preaching that Pete Carmichael and Dennis Allen, a.k.a. Dingus 1 and Dingus 2, Goofus and Gallant, Bebop and Rocksteady, all the names, King Clown 1 and King Clown 2, they've got to figure out a way to get Alvin the ball. And he kind of gets real in this. I've seen some quotes. I haven't seen the interview. He gets kind of real with his production and the offensive scheme and all that stuff. So let's listen to what Alvin's got to say here and break it down.
Somewhere. Oh, this is why Alvin Kamara's not playing. But
wait, so this is WGNO. I wanted to make sure I gave credit to the interviewer. WGNO News in New Orleans. My journalistic integrity. There you go. So this is from WGNO. Let's go.
I will say, like, shoot, when it's things like that, it's like internally, personally, I'm like, man, I gotta do better in those situations because that's an opportunity. Even without the ball in my hands, that's an opportunity. So I got to take advantage of every opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Like now, especially when you.
I've always read body language stuff, like in police interrogations or whatever, like those videos, they break down body language. I think it's really interesting stuff that people do and they don't even realize it. I'm not saying that this is true, and I did not expect it to be starting off the video like this, but I think it's telling that he's got his hand like this. You know, like I think Alvin and the Saints, I think they feel it. You know, this is a franchise and a team that's used to competing, used to being in the conversation, used to being good, and they're just flat out not good. And I think the interviews I've seen recently with Cam Jordan or Alvin or whoever, I think they feel it. And, you know, now that the season's kind of winding down and they know they're eliminated, you know, they know they're not in contention anymore. They know that there isn't a turnaround happening. There isn't any of that. So I think the players to me seem like they're hurting. Like they're not upset or broken or anything like that, but they just seem like they're aware of the struggles of this year. And I think it's in these interviews you can tell. I think the fact that he's got his hand like this and he's talking, and you know the body language thing is like anytime someone puts something in between them and the person they're talking to, they're being defensive or they're trying to protect themselves. That's why people, you know, during scary movies, they'll have like their hand over their face, or they'll, you know, if you talk to somebody like this, you're guarded, you know. So that's something that I think is kind of interesting here, and it could mean absolutely nothing because I'm certainly not a body expert. Another thing here, Alvin's teeth, 10 out of 10.
I'm talking about, you know, the lack thereof. You know, I think I don't even how many touches in the past.
Not a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been like the 5 lowest number.
Yeah. So you see that, and when that happens, then you add a fumble in it. It's like it damn near erases those couple of touches. It's like, man, those couple of touches aren't what I'm used to. Then I get a fumble, so it's like double negative.
So yeah, I mean, like the touches thing has blown my mind, and a thing that I hate that Allen and Carmichael do, one of the many things, is I hate how they rotate players and they rotate personnel. Alvin will get a carry, and then he'll go out, and then they'll do a pass, they'll do a play action, they'll do a run with like Ingram or someone else. Then Alvin will come in, he'll run a route, but they'll go to somewhere else. He'll go out, he'll come. It's like it takes him 6 or 7 plays usually before he's even involved again. And that's not even if it's a running play. You know, he may come in on a passing play just to do something else and then go back out. With players like Kamara, you have to just give them the ball and let them get going. Derrick Henry, you see this all the time in Tennessee. Derrick Henry would not be the same player he is if he got 12 touches. You know, sometimes a player has to grind out yards and grind out plays and do things before they can explode, or before, you know, they can take advantage of stuff. Christian McCaffrey, what kind of a year would he be having, or a career would he have if he was given eight carries and 2 catches a game? Alvin should be the main focal point of the offense. Chris Olave is the man, but Alvin should be the engine for this offense. Every single week, they should go into camp or whatever, practice, and they should say, okay, how are we going to get Alvin Kamara involved? How are we going to get him in space? How are we going to get him going this week? And they should start there. There should never be a situation where Kamara touches the ball between 8 and 10 times. And that's happened for about a month straight.
You know, so just taking advantage of every opportunity and hopefully getting more opportunities, I think. I've been trying to run super fast in practice so they can see that I can run. Somebody told me I lost a step. I seen my brother sent me a comment. It was on Twitter. It was like, Alvin Kamara lost a step. They ain't playing good or something. So I just laughed at it. So I've been running fast, trying to make sure I ain't lose a step.
Here's the other thing you see on Twitter all the time. Well, if they're not running the ball well, which is true against some of the defenses.
You get vertigo.
Why don't they get him open in space? Why don't they throw it to
Throw
him?
it.
I say this a lot, okay? I say this a lot because with someone like Kamara, if the running game isn't there and if the game script doesn't call for running plays, so with the way the Saints season has been, we've been down a lot, right? Like we've been down. We've been coming from behind. You know, we've been struggling. We have not been dictating the game. We've been reactionary in the game. When that's happening, I think that it's hard to be like, well, they should run the ball with Kamara. They should get him going on the run. But luckily, with someone like Kamara, you can get him going in the passing game. And when we have injuries on like the offensive line, things like that, and you don't want to just run behind them, it's easier to offset what the defense is doing by things like screens, getting Kamara matched up on a linebacker, you know, letting him run routes in the slot, draws, stuff like that. So I do want to see him in space. I do want to see him getting involved in the passing game because it's not because I don't think he can run. It's because I think either the team is not set up to pound the rock, the game script's not allowing us to do that, but they should do that. You know, if he can't get 15 carries, if the game script calls for him to get 10 carries, he should get 10 catches or at least 10 targets. You can't, you know, guarantee a catch, but he should be getting anywhere between 20 and 25 touches a game. I think it would be, or looks, we'll say looks, because again, a target, whatever, but I think he should be getting at least 8 to 10 targets and 15 to 20 carries a game.
Is that as easy as just?
It's not that easy. I think me, Andy, and Jarvis were just talking about it on the sideline. You know, I mean,
what are you doing today to change your
mood? What's going on here? What is this?
30.
What the hell is this? Some gummy ad?
Game complements the run game. When you get the run game going, it's easier to pass the ball. Obviously, I mean,
true.
A lot of people, you know, they got Twitter coaches and Twitter analysts. They don't really know the game, so you know they just watching. And when we go 3 and out, they're like, trade everybody." So you know that's I guess you know trade everybody. Hopefully, tear it down and rebuild. But you know when you got a good flow going on running the ball and you know you getting consistent yardage and you staying ahead of the chains, then I mean it's easier for Pete to get some you know optimal pass looks going.
Yes, for sure. You know this is not groundbreaking stuff. If you're passing the ball well, it's easier to run. If you're running the ball well, it's easier to pass. The problem is, once we don't do one well, or once we can't do one well, Pete seems to abandon it, or Pete seems to not be able to get it back. If you get stuffed on the first 4 or 5 rushes, Pete tends to all of a sudden, those games, Alvin will have finished with 8 carries. What the hell? Arizona, great example. Arizona is my A1 example of this. I believe, and I'm pulling all this out of thin air because again, I don't have any note takers or assistants here. I'm pretty sure Kamara had 9 carries in the first half. Then the pick sixes happened. I'm pretty sure he finished with 11 carries. That means that once we got down, once the game got away from us, Pete completely abandoned Kamara running the football. Now again, we're down 14-21, whatever it was in that game. I'm not sitting here saying pound Kamara on first, second, and third. But you can't go from a game script or a plan that has him carrying the ball 9 times in the first half and then 2 times in the second half, because you either don't have him on the field enough or you're just abandoning whatever you had going on.
And get Andy in rhythm and, you know, spread the ball out and spread the love out. And, you know, we're talking about me getting me the ball in space. But when we're not running the ball well or, you know, it's not going too good and then we're trying to pass the ball, and it just compounds like when we're not getting good passing looks. It looks like, oh, well, the passing game, they can't pass or they can't run. Trade everybody again. It's just
again, he's a professional football player, and I'm certainly not. But I think there's more to it, where if the running game isn't working, it's for a reason. Okay, so then let's just pretend do this. Let's say the reason is that the offensive line is having trouble establishing themselves because of injuries. Okay, then let's say the passing game isn't working because Dalton's getting rushed. Okay, because of the exact same reason, because there are injuries on the offensive line, there's pressure coming, whatever. It's up to Pete or Dennis. It's up to them to say, okay, how can we offset that? And the way you offset that is by what I said 30 seconds ago. Screens. Have we called a screen this entire year? We used to lead the NFL in screen passes. We used to, with Alvin Kamara. And now we don't do it at all. It's up to them to say, all right, our running game isn't working, but we don't want to abandon the run. So how can we get it to work again? The answers to that sometimes is we're going to run draws, we're going to run, we're going to get Kamara out wide, we're going to get him in space, we're going to get tosses. It's not just we're going to keep running it up the middle and see what happens. Oh, the passing game's not working. It's not, well, F it, let's just keep running the same plays over and over. It may be, okay, let's try and get Alvin out in the slot. Let's try and get him matched up on this player right here. We've highlighted this defensive player, this matchup we want. Let's get Alvin running a route. Has he ran a route all year? I swear all I've seen him do is either an emergency like fifth read where he just kind of floats out at the end of the play, or just go out into the flats. Has he lined up like in the slot or out wide and ran like an actual route? Because he used to do that all the time. And I'm not blaming Kamara for this, obviously. He can't call his own plays. But it seems like Dennis and Pete have completely eliminated that from the Saints offense. By doing that, they've also eliminated the best player on the Saints offense. They have eliminated Alvin Kamara and his production, which we've seen year in and year out. They've eliminated his production from the Saints offense. That is coaching malpractice 101, where your game plans and strategies or whatever are so bad that you have eliminated your best player. You have done what the defense has tried to do all week. The best thing the defenses have going for them playing against the Saints is the fact that Dennis Allen and Pete Carmichael are on the sidelines.
To answer your question, I don't even remember what the question was, but we need to pass the ball. We need to run the ball. I think the run game, the success of the pass game has direct relation to the run game being successful.
Yes, no doubt.
So low, since you've been here by a large margin.
I'm gonna go ask Pete after this. I'm gonna go ask Pete. I don't know. I think
that's a great answer. I would love to ask Pete. I basically ask Pete every week on here, and I'm sure he's watching because the whole city's watching. Have you seen the numbers I'm doing? The whole damn city of New Orleans is watching these videos. So I'm sure Pete, I know he's not watching game tape. I know he's not prepping for the games. So I hope he's doing something. But I would like to ask Pete. And I think that's another one of those funny. Another thing that I always heard was that in every joke, there's a little truth. So anytime someone says something to you that's negative and they say, oh man, I was just kidding. It's like, but were you? Or was there a little truth in that? Why'd you say that? I think Alvin saying, ask Pete is some truth. I think he's wondering the same shit. He's wondering, why are my numbers so low? Why are we losing by 14 and I'm only getting 7 carries and 2 catches? I was watching the Pelicans game last night, right? The Pelicans are down. They were playing Utah. The Pelicans were down. And at that time, Zion he had like 13 points or something. And he didn't have that many shots. And I remember thinking like, hey, we're down. These are the games where your superstar should be all of a sudden asserting themselves, right? When we're up 30, there's no need for Alvin to have 20 touches. Like I understand that. But when you're down and you have to get desperate, and that's when you use your best players. So the fact that we've lost as much as we have this year, yet Alvin's production or his touches have dropped, to me, that makes no sense. That's not correlated at all. It should be the opposite. It should be we've lost a lot. So, because we've lost a lot, Alvin's touches, specifically his reception, should be through the roof because we should just be nonstop dumping the ball. And we just don't do that.
I mean, I think the screen game, I would count that as a pass, I guess. Like,
it is a pass. It is a pass, and we don't do it at all.
It's just hard to get those looks going when some of it is defense, some of it is scheme. So it's hard to call some of those when we might be behind the chains, or we might have some plays not going our way. We might it just might not be the timing. Like the timing just isn't right for some of these screens. So
no doubt, and sometimes that's fine. But there's other options, right? There's other ways. I think there's 3 ways he can be utilized in the passing game. Screens, which we just talked about. When he is coming out of the flats, or coming out of the backfield into the flats, just a normal, maybe like I said, the last read or whatever. And then 3 is when he is playing as a wide receiver, and he's either in the slots and they are trying to get a matchup with a safety or a linebacker or their third corner, whatever the matchup is. Unfortunately, they're not doing 2 of the 3. They're just doing the coming out of the backfield and just being like the release and the last look. That's a huge problem. Just watch any other team that does this. Watch San Francisco. Watch how they use Christian McCaffrey. He'll catch screens. He'll line up as a wide receiver and catch screens. He'll run down the sidelines against Tampa Bay this week. He caught a touchdown pass coming down the sideline, basically a go route. They don't do that with Alvin.
That's what I would think attribute it to.
Keeping the OC hat on, like you got 6 touches inside the opponent's 1 to 10. Any reason for that?
I don't know. I plead the fifth.
Yeah.
This interview is so telling. They're asking him, "Hey man, why do you have 6 touches in between the goal line and the 10-yard line?" And you can see it written on his face that he's sitting here going like, "I have no clue. I'm wondering the same thing myself." And if he's willing to react like this in front of the media, to me, this says that him and the other team, his teammates, are talking all kind of shit behind the scenes. If he's saying this and laughing and saying like, "Hey man, I hands up, plead the fifth." If he's saying this to WGNO and the rest of this media, imagine when he's saying to Jarvis Landry, at his house. Imagine what they're texting about. They know the issue. The players know the problem. They know what's happening, and Pete and Dennis just keep doing it.
Are these conversations you're having after games where it doesn't feel like maybe you got the ball as
With
much
who?
as you should have with Pete? Or
Nah.
even DA?
I don't know if y'all heard that. She said, this is unbelievable. I'm floored. She says, are these conversations you're having after the game? Alvin says, with who? Because that means, 1, he is having these conversations, but he's having them in private with his teammates, just like I said. And she says, with Pete. He says, no. And quickly says no. And look at this look on his face. This tells me he's got 0 faith in Pete Carmichael. This tells me he has 0 communication with Pete Carmichael. And this tells me he doesn't respect Pete Carmichael, which, LOL, I don't respect him either. So I'm Team Alvin again.
We all talk, but I'm not. I don't think. I guess y'all can answer this question. Y'all been around me long enough. I don't think I'm a selfish player. I think I'm
Agreed.
here. I'm available. Like unless I'm hurt, I'm trying to do everything I can do to win. Whether it's a decoy,
Agreed.
whether it's I'll put a headphone on and call the play if I have to. Like so, I just with me, I think the only times I really get, if we say frustrated, is like when I feel like I'm not helping affect the game in a positive way, whether it's without the ball in my hands or with the ball in my hands. So if we're talking about getting the ball in between the 1 and 10 X amount of times, I don't know. I don't get paid to make those decisions. But when I do have the opportunity, I try my best to take advantage.
He absolutely should be getting the ball. Like, what a great answer. I'll give him that great answer. And I do agree with him. He has been, his career, he has been an unselfish player. He has shared the touches with Taysom Hill, Mark Ingram. He's had to share with Breeze throwing the ball 50 to 60 times a game, like, for sure. He's a guy who, look, I've got no shame saying I think Alvin Kamara is a top 5 running back in the NFL. There's not a lot of players I would rather have than Kamara at that position. And if he wanted to, he could go somewhere else and be a featured MVP chasing kind of back. I think he's better than Saquon Barkley. I think he's better than players like that. And if he was in New York, I'll go ahead and tell you he would be getting 30 touches a game. You know, if he was, him and Christian McCaffrey, I think, are pretty much interchangeable. If he was in San Francisco, he would be having MVP talk. But instead, he's getting asked about why he's touching the ball 5 times a game. So it shows how unselfish he is. If I was him, I would have already left. I would have packed my shit up this year and said, I'm not doing this. I'm not coming out here running the ball 6 times a game. No way. Running backs have a short shelf life as it is. So I wouldn't blame him at all for saying, I'm taking my shit to Tampa Bay. I'm taking my stuff to the Ravens. I'm going to wherever. You know, I'm going to a team that will appreciate me and play me and get me looks.
What areas of your game are you trying to improve on? Or
Everything, everything every year.
That's an easy question.
Everything every year. It's a constant evolution. I'm always working my craft, catching, running, all that. So I mean, it's not my game, crafting my game and my skills isn't dependent on win-loss or, you know, not getting the ball or getting the ball. It's always a constant evolution.
What a guy.
I just touched on. Has this season been frustrating for you, just between the?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be frustrating. I hate questions like this. Of course, it's been frustrating. It's been frustrating for me. I just watch it once a week. It's got to be so frustrating for these players who are so used to winning and being good, and the city being behind them, to be hearing all the negative stuff every single week. I mean, this season has been awful, and I know just from being here, like the way people talk about the Saints right now versus how they've talked about them, you know, the first year I moved here was the year we lost to the Bucs in the playoffs when the Bucs won the Super Bowl. The way that they talk about the Saints now versus then is night and day, and it's only been a year. It hasn't even been a year, you know. So it has to be frustrating for the players.
Your team.
What? Jesus, Bally's. What? God bless the audio.
Yeah, that's. I mean, we're in here. We get paid a lot of money to come in here and win. There's not one owner in the NFL that is paying guys to come here and be like, yeah, what we want to do is we want to lose here. This organization wants to lose.
It's kind of funny because that's exactly what the Dolphins did. Exactly what the Dolphins did the last year of Brian Flores' year. They straight up said, "Hey, we are trying to tank."
So you know, it's frustrating when I think you get a good group of guys together and you just falling short. You know, a couple weeks, 1 week, and another week here you falling short, and you know it's like I'm not used to losing. So I'm just speaking for me. I know a lot of guys aren't used to losing, and you know a lot of dudes in this locker room got a lot of pride about, you know, their skill sets and, you know, what they're used to or what they're accustomed to as far as, you know, being able to play at an elite level and win at an elite level. So it's definitely frustrating. Like, to me, more than anything, like nobody can say anything to me that will that I haven't like thought about in my head and been more mad or like fuming about. Like, it's a loss is like that. I can't.
The only person used to losing on the team is Dennis Allen.
Wins and losses, and
he loses everywhere he goes.
Definitely, like it's a very, very thin line. You know, the skill is so close. Like, you know, it's not like high school or college where, you know, go out there and you can sneak a win. You can't sneak a win in this league. You got to be on point every week. So
yeah,
you know, it's frustrating, it's annoying, but you know that you got so many opportunities. You know, until you don't got no more opportunities. So we just keep moving. We got some more opportunities.
Kind of related to that. I mean, it seems like a lot of these losses, you're just like right there.
Exactly.
A couple plays here or there.
Exactly. You can't. It's the margin.
2 games, I would say, like the Minnesota game with the double doink in London, the Cincinnati game. But again, that's, you know, Joe Burrow's going to do that. You give him a chance to be great, he's going to be great. The rest, man, like, I don't know. I mean, like the Baltimore game, they just got absolutely dominated. Carolina game, they got absolutely dominated. You know, the Tampa game obviously was like an enormous collapse. But you can't be like, you can't, like the Tampa game, you can't be like, oh man, you should have won that, because they did everything they could to lose it. You know, it's hard to be like, we let that one slip when, you know, it was a catastrophe. So this season it really hasn't been that close. Like, which I think probably is even more frustrating when you're just rolling out there and just getting slapped up every week.
For error in this league is near non-existent. You can't do, like, some of the mistakes we've been making, you can't make them and expect to come out with a victory. So a lot of the times, like, I think, and I feel like, me personally, I got a unique way of looking at losses. It's like, I really don't dwell on things too much. Like, I mean, we lose, go in the locker room. Why did we lose? I think about it, process it, and throw that away. It's like, all right, we got to move on to the next. I don't really have a 24-hour rule. I got really like if it's a away game, by the time I get on the plane and sit down, it's like, all right, we on to the next.
I've heard, I think it was Brady. I think it was Tom Brady who was talking about that. And they asked him, like, how long does it take you to process a loss? How long does it take you to process a win? Maybe it was Rodgers. It was a big quarterback. And they said the same thing. They were like, look, in the moment, you're excited after a win, you're devastated after a loss, but by the time you go to sleep that night, it's pretty much over. It's pretty much. So I think that mindset is pretty common in the NFL or just pro sports. And I think the fans dwell on it way more. The fans dwell on it because I think they're there once a week. The fans see it, they dwell on it, they're hurting, they have to go back to their jobs or go back to their real life and then wait another week. Whereas the players can just get right back to it. They get right back to practice, get right back to film study, get right back to the next game. So I think that's a big misnomer with fans and pros is just how long it takes to get over a loss. I for sure believe Alvin when he says a couple hours, 100%. Whoa.
After the game, when I get in my car and make it to my house, when we got a home game, it's done. It's not really a 24-hour thing for me. It's like, all right, we won, we lost, out and processed it. I'm moving on to the next opponent. So I mean, you just got to keep moving forward.
You were talking about earlier just the team staying mentally in it. And there's been a lot of discussions over the years about the rookie wall, but is there like a mental wall in such a long season, especially now that it's an 18-week season?
Yeah, I'll never lie to y'all. You definitely hit. You definitely hit. It's not one wall. You hit walls here and there. Like, shoot, it's a demanding, physically demanding, mentally demanding profession that we're in. So, I'll be lying if I sat up here and say, like, nah, there's no wall. I'm just fresh every day and everything is jolly. And I mean, it's a couple times during the year where I'm like, oh my God, like I'm getting out of bed like, shoot. Because it's so, like, there's so much behind the scenes that goes on. It's not just Sundays. It's Monday through Sunday, and then it's.
I think that's another thing that I think gets kind of lost with pros and fans is like, I hear this all the time. They're like, oh, they get paid millions of dollars and they only got to play 16 games. So they're just doing this. And then you think about like baseball, for example. Like baseball, I always think about, yeah, they play 162 games, but think about how many flights that is. Think about how many nights in hotels that is. Think about how many nights, eating catering that is. Like, I don't know if y'all ever go on like work trips or whatever, but if I go on a work trip and I'm away from my apartment, living out of a suitcase for 3 or 4 days, eating, like food from the hotel or food from restaurants or takeout, I just start to feel weird, feel different. I like everything's thrown off. So I can't imagine what athletes go through, like the Saints, like the Saints. So this week they are playing at home, and last week they were off. But some weeks it'll be like, all right, you're playing in Pittsburgh on Sunday. Then you fly back to New Orleans. Then you practice. Then on Friday you fly out to Tampa. Then like it's like, man, where am I? And it's the holidays. And your family's doing stuff. It's just crazy how hard that must be for these players on just a human level to know, like, man, I haven't seen my kids in days. I haven't seen my family in days. I haven't slept in my bed in days. I'm in between different time zones, like what's going on, different temperature, different, where are my clothes? And I know all that seems ridiculous for a pro athlete to worry about, but I guarantee you they do that. And especially for, like he's saying, how long the season is. Before that first bye week, I'm sure, players are like, man, I cannot wait for the bye week. I just need a week. I just need to rest. I just need a break. Then you have short rest games, and you have games where you're playing weird hours, and you're playing prime time, and then there's a lot that goes into that.
It's Sunday. It's really Sunday to Sunday. You know what I'm saying? It's not just game day. It's recovery. It's film work. It's, what I'm saying? Like, we still got families. We still got, friends, kids. Like, everybody got so much going on, and you still got to balance this part of it. So, I mean, guys hit walls, whether it's physically, whether it's mentally. But I mean, it's the reason we get paid a lot of money is because we find ways to overcome that and still be ready to prepare Wednesday through Saturday and come out on Sunday and be out there and give 100 or as close to 100 as you can and do it again all over again for X amount of weeks. So, you know.
I'm kind of switching gears, but how do you think Drew Brees will do as a coach?
I don't know. You just
All right, he asked how Brees will do as a coach, so we'll cut it off there. I mean, great interview from Alvin. He's, like I said, he's one of my favorite players ever, on and off the field, and I think he answered all these questions great. And I think he was very transparent and honest with a lot of these questions that a lot of players would just shut down, especially in a frustrating season. So, again, this is WGNO who put this video up. You see all the mics there. It's all the reporters, but this is WGNO's video. So let me know in the comments below what you think about what he said. You know, what's your reaction to some of these answers? Do you think that I'm reading too much into it, or do you think that these answers are pretty telling, and that this kind of does give you a look into what the players are thinking under Dennis Allen and Pete Carmichael? Thank you for watching the video. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you on the next one.